Hi, everyone. Welcome to TSP Weekly, your tech startup podcast for April the 29th, 2016. My name is Stephen Campbell, a local podcaster here in Kitchener-Waterloo, and with me today is Sen and Angela. Welcome, guys.
Good morning.
Do you see how I skipped your last names completely?
Probably a wise move.
Yeah, absolutely. Angela, you're the director here of Startup Services.
Right.
And Sen, you're a program manager, is that correct?
Yes.
So give us your full names, guys, because they're a little bit tricky, right?
So I'm Angela Larraguibel, and my cohort here,
Sen Sachi.
And come on.
All right, Sachi Donanam.
Sachi Donanam. That's awesome. Welcome, guys.
Thank you.
So tell me a little bit about what you guys do here at Communitech.
So my role is to work with all the incoming startups, so everybody kind of ideation stage and beyond as they come through the doors, providing them with access to mentorship, resources, market intelligence, making connections for them, and then the hope is eventually filtering them through to Sen's team, handing them off to go into one of the accelerator streams.
Okay, so Sen, you're in the accelerator streams then?
So we have 3 distinct programs. So at this point, I manage Rev Accelerator program. So we're looking for companies that are product ready, generated sales, and how can we help scale their business over 6 months. We have our Google for Entrepreneurs program and our Digital Media Accelerator supported by Christy. So essentially those companies are in validation stages. But all of them work on the second floor with us. And so that's the neat thing. They can work out of the space, get access to mentorship.
So this is an awesome space. We are on the second floor of the Tannery building here. Tell me a little bit about what's happening. There's been a huge move. Velocity's moving around. You guys are moving around. Google's moved around.
Yeah.
What's that feel like a little bit? What's happening?
It's a bit chaotic, but it's been great. The fact that now we can house companies on the second floor, we never had that option before, at least the companies that we work with directly. So we did have some space for the Rev companies, but now we have one for the digital media program. So it's been great. Our startup services team is on the second floor. So just having companies in-house is really beneficial.
And how many companies are you going to be able to hold now with the new space that you have?
I think the goal is to have 30 to 40 companies eventually on this floor. Yeah.
That's great. Yeah. And how many are we at currently?
Right now, we're looking at least 20 companies at this point.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So let's talk a little bit about the support in the surrounding area, because you guys aren't specifically a startup. Yeah. You're sort of the support for all the brains in the area, right? So let's talk a little bit about that. Angela, we talked earlier about a little bit of education. Can you expand on that a little bit for me?
Sure. So when startups come to us, the very first thing we do is ask them to fill out an online application, come on in. We do an initial triage or an assessment of them to just try and gauge what stage they're at. And then we offer them a variety of programming. And so everything we do for them is free for 2 years minimum. And we will offer them over and above, one-on-one advisory services and that sort of thing. We have a suite of educational programming that we've put together. So the base program that we offer is called Business Fundamentals.
Okay.
It's kind of like a 101 program, if you will. It's a 7-part series, 2 hours each. And we jokingly refer to it as everything you need to not go to jail.
Okay.
So
a lot of accounting then, right?
Compliance,
Yeah.
Corporate governance, HR. All of those sorts of issues are covered off at a high level to start to get people thinking through the foundational aspects that they need to have in place to ensure a successful journey. So that's kind of one of the very first things they're offered as they come through the door. It's offered 4 times a year. And
your intake is?
Intake is on a rolling basis.
Okay.
So we actually have about 2 companies a day knocking on our door.
Oh, that's great.
To come into the programs. Yep, so that's great. But the fundamentals is offered 4 times a year throughout the year. There's a certification offered at the end in conjunction with GTAN, which is our local angel organization. They recognize the certification. So when companies are going through for selection at GTAN, they're asked if they've completed this programming.
So GTAN is the Golden Triangle Area Network. Is that correct?
Golden Triangle Angel Network, yeah.
GTAN. And the Golden Triangle being sort of Kitchener-Waterloo, Guelph, and Cambridge. Is that right?
Yep.
Cool. Awesome. What about some of the incubators that are here locally, Sen? We talked earlier about the myriad of different opportunities that you have. Let's explore that a little bit.
So having great relationships with incubators is really key to our success for our programming. So at Rev Accelerator, we have companies that have gone through the Velocity program, which is on the first floor, Accelerator Center, which is not too far from here, and especially in companies from DMZ out of Toronto, and then we work with companies out of Mars, and then even companies that are in the 111 space. So we, again, like the whole corridor, Toronto and Waterloo, working really close together to help our companies, what's best for our company. So that's been huge beneficial for us. I think Ange can talk about our CDMN network a little bit. We share a lot of best practices between all the hubs in terms of what challenges they have, what's really working for them. And that's been really useful for us in our learning.
We talked earlier about how my impression is that this is sort of the heavyweight epicenter for knowledge and talent. And you guys travel out sometimes. You said you went to Vancouver to learn, and they were looking at you for
it was surprising for me, like, because I always feel that you can always learn from other hubs how they're doing it, but it was just a remark that they made saying, hey, we really want to know what you're doing at Communitech, which is great. But there was learnings on both ends, on myself and the hubs that were met in Vancouver. But I think we also, the same thing, I have a colleague who went to Halifax, same deal. Like when he went there, he's learned how they're doing things differently with their companies.
And what do you find that they are doing differently? Any takeaways from some of those exchanges?
I think just figuring out how they're managing their mentors with the companies that they're working with, just certain things that they do in terms of culture with companies while they're the companies that they house in their space. So you take little tidbits here and there.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, for myself, I met with someone from Accelerate Okanagan last week, for example.
Okanagan?
Okanagan. Quite interested in, again, learning what Communitech was doing. And so I gave him our spiel, but then I said, I'm really interested to learn what you're doing. And what I took away from that was quite substantial. I mean, their processes that they have in place to triage and filter were quite fulsome, and actually I've asked him to share those with us because why reinvent the wheel?
Right.
They're doing it really well, and so we really feel like it's behooves us to stay in touch with these other incubators because there's really bright people working there, and they've already created something really great. So let's work together
and keep some of those commonalities. Do you find it's a small world here in Canada? Do you see any of the entrepreneurs going through the same incubators and familiar faces?
For sure, yeah, and we like to encourage as much cross-pollination as we can. We are, comparatively speaking to the U.S., a smaller market, but it is a small community, especially Waterloo region. A lot of back and forth, as Sen was alluding to, with Velocity, the Accelerator Center, that sort of thing.
Give me a sense of sort of your perfect company. Like if you're getting 2 a day, and one is like, oh, geez, you're not quite there yet, but then the next one is like, this is perfect. I can really help you guys.
Yeah.
Who is that company, or what does that company look like a little bit?
Number one would be coachability.
I was just going to say the same thing.
Somebody that's ready to learn and listen.
And open to it. I mean, I think if you've got somebody that, they're all smart, they're all talented, and a lot of them have good ideas. If you're willing to work with us, then, I think the possibilities are virtually endless. So,
because you're getting companies at different stages when they will sign up for startup services, right? So even if they're at the ideation stage, doesn't mean they can't move along really fast with their business. It's just a matter of coachability. Are they able to really absorb what the mentors are advising them with?
So outside of coachability, is there another sort of a hot button? Because you guys both very quickly went right to that one. Like, we need somebody that really wants to be part of the team.
Yeah, I would say
that's the next one.
Yeah, team for us. You've got to have talent in house, and I mean a big idea.
Yeah,
it's always if you've got those 3 things, that's kind of your special sauce.
Awesome.
Yeah,
that's really cool.
In my opinion, I don't know if you want to.
No, I agree. I mean, it goes back to team. So. I mean, do you have all the missing pieces? Do you understand that certain things that you don't have in your team, are you willing to go and find that talent? So just understanding that at the very beginning is important.
Yeah, knowing themselves and knowing when to step back and accept assistance. It can be hard.
We're going to talk about our 3x3. So we're trying to do it a little more rapid, fast paced question and answer. So we're going to talk about 3 wins, 3 losses, and then 3 things that you guys are building towards the future with.
Awesome.
How do you guys want to do it? Do you want to go one each, or do you want to go back and forth?
Let's go back and forth.
Yeah?
Works.
So let's talk about wins first. Angela.
So, top of mind when we started thinking about this was expanding. So that would be our first kind of win is now, as Sen alluded to earlier, we're able to house more of the accelerating companies in-house, which is a huge piece of the puzzle for us. What it means is we're able to keep them in closer contact with the mentors, and to be able to have them, housed right here with close access to them is really, really beneficial. And it's allowed us to kind of provide just a kick-butt place for them to work and build their corporate culture.
Yeah.
I love the color of the wall upstairs.
The whole building is
So
awesome.
bright, yeah.
Yeah.
What about you, Sam?
I guess another win for us is the launching of our some new programs. So the Digital Media Accelerator, supported by Christie Digital. We got 2 companies housed on the second floor right now, and it's awesome. The team at Christie is actually willing to provide a lot of mentorship, access to customers, access to resources. And we got Jennifer Smith, who's the EVP at Christie, and Mike Bernhardt, who's the director there, and they really want to help these companies. So it's great to see that, and these companies normally cannot get access to these type of people when they're trying to build their companies. And then our next cohort starting in 2 weeks for the Rev Accelerator. So that's exciting as well. So this space is going to be really busy soon in the next 2 weeks.
A whole bunch of fresh new faces.
Yeah.
Yeah, that would be neat. So those are some wins. How about some losses?
Wait, I have one more win.
Oh, yeah, please. Yeah.
I do, and it's a shameless plug, so
Good.
I got to get it in here.
Yeah, let's hear it.
It's our Fierce Founders. So it was it used to be the Women Entrepreneurs Bootcamp. It's been rebranded to Fierce Founders. So it's a boot camp that we run. This will be the 3rd year, over 2 weeks throughout the summer.
I've seen some tweets. About
Excellent.
Hashtag Fierce Founders.
Please share.
$100,000 is up for grabs or something like that?
$100,000 up
What's
for
that all
grabs.
about?
So it's really part awareness raising campaign. We want to get female entrepreneurs thinking about, or females in general, thinking about entrepreneurship, thinking about dipping their toe in the water. It's really focused on kind of the validation stage. So come to us with an idea. We'll walk you through the validation and product market fit piece of it. And then week 2 is really focused around polishing your pitch, presentation skills, and it all wraps up and culminates with a pitch competition at the end. So we're really, really excited about that this year.
That'll be neat, yeah.
Building on 2 years of strong programming into our 3rd year. So.
And we mentioned last week that Sen and Marilyn would be on the podcast today. Thank you for jumping in at the last minute, Angela. Marilyn has the bug. She's been bitten and is leaving you guys to go back into the sea of entrepreneurship and fight the battle of whatever. I don't know what my metaphor. I don't know where I'm going there.
Well, the awesome thing is Marilyn's still going to be in the building, so she's not too far away. So
Right. What is her new startup? Do you guys have any? Can you give a little tease of that at all?
I know
or
it's
do you
called Navi.
it's called Navi, but I wouldn't do it justice by descriing it, but we should definitely bring her on.
Yeah,
the
maybe
podcast,
we'll touch base with her and see if she can come on and talk about it for
Yeah.
sure. Yeah. So those are really cool wins. How about some losses? Any tough lessons that you've learned that you can pass on to others so they don't have to experience the same thing?
I guess the losses that we were going to initially say is that 2 of our our colleagues are leaving, so Hussam and Marilyn. They've been extremely valuable to the team. Marilyn obviously starting her own company. Hussam is actually joining the DMZ as their director of Startup Services Group. So great win for them, but definitely a great loss for us in terms of talent.
Bittersweet.
Yeah.
Bittersweet, yeah.
In terms of challenges, just internally with our programming, at least for the Rev Accelerator, is always finding great companies. We're looking for companies, again, have the right things, great team, product ready, generate sales, but also thinking, how can we become a next $100 million annual recurring revenue company? And we're looking for founders that are thinking big. So that's always a challenge of finding companies like that. But we've been doing a great job with working with all our incubators and Velocity, AC, and in Toronto as well.
Do you guys fight when you find a good one?
No, honestly, it's really to help what's best for the company. So we're a 6-month accelerator. We don't take any equity. Our mentors act as embedded execs. So they actually do deep dives with the companies. They'll go on sales calls. They'll go on sales meetings. They'll assess the marketing website. So a lot of value added for the companies. And it's really for 6 months. And it's whether they're from Toronto or Waterloo, it doesn't matter to us. We just want to help them get to the next step.
So each incubator or support system has its own flavor a little bit.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. What about some other losses that you've experienced yourselves or maybe have seen through the eyes of the entrepreneur?
I mean, for us, we're a not-for-profit entity, so the challenge is always, doing the most we can with our resources that we have. And I mean, we're very thankful for everything we've got, and we're in this awesome facility, but it's always challenging to try and service the client base and do them justice. So we have, like I said, about 2 companies a day coming through the door. So really another challenge for us is identifying those what could be high potentials or high performers early on, filtering them, nurturing them, providing them with as much assistance as we can, and as I say, with an eye to eventually handing them off to Sen's team. And then we've got an SME division that deals with 10 to 499 employee companies, so I know that's a broad swath, but we have somebody to hand them off to internally, and then there's other organizations that service them as well as they grow.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Any other juicy losses, or have you seen any startups go through? I'm sure you have. Is there anything you can share and not feel too guilty
a lot
about?
of the companies we work with, they go through ups and downs, and so the one thing that we noticed that, at least in the Rev Accelerator, when they do hit a low, our mentors are really working with them to okay, these are the challenges. This happens in any startup that you're going to build, and they work them through it. So it's nice to see, like, after during the 6 months when they do hit those lows, and how they are able to overcome that. And
the trough of sorrow.
Yeah.
Yeah, so familiar with it.
I could build on that just a little bit too, saying one thing that's kind of top of mind for us too is addressing like a work-life balance or mental health within the community, because it's a very challenging journey to take on, and you can be talented and passionate and driven, but it's a lot to put on your shoulders. So we're working. We've put on a workshop once. We're planning on doing it again, and it should be an ongoing initiative for us to start the conversation, get people recognizing that it needs to be a balance, right? So
I know there's right downstairs. There's some de-stress yoga happening in the Google Gym on a weekly basis. So yeah.
And just to add to that, like this morning from 8 to 9, we have our Rev CEOs meeting over breakfast. So it's strictly for the CEOs. We say it's Vegas rules, what happens in breakfast stays at breakfast. But it's really an opportunity for them to share some of the challenges and practices they have. And that's tough, right? When you're building your business and you're a sole founder and you can't really share what's going on internally with the company. So that's been working really well.
The Velocity has sort of grouped them by software and then hardware, and now they're sort of reshuffling them by stage. Do you guys have any commonalities like that, other than like the CEO breakfast is the first one that comes to mind, obviously, where you're putting all the similar people together, all the CEOs?
No, that's a great question. So we do, like Velocity, support ICT companies, software and hardware, but on this floor we do try to stage them. So our Digital Media Accelerator and Google for Entrepreneur companies, those founders are usually in the validation stage. They are starting to just get a few customers, are in the pilot stage, still figuring out who their customer is.
Right.
Whereas in the Rev Accelerator, you've kind of figured that out. And now how do you build a blueprint to really now generate more sales? And then now how do you build a sales team upon completion or while you're in the program?
Right.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Let's talk about the future in our 3x3. What are 3 future-looking things that you guys can tell us about Communitech?
So I would say number one for us is a big focus for us is finding the top kind of 20% performers and allocating 80% of our time, love, and attention to them. Hence the focus on the accelerating streams. So my job is at the top of the funnel, as I alluded to earlier, is the ideation stage, getting those people through the doors, and then ideally handing them off again to one of the accelerating streams. So that's really top of mind for us right now if we're going to build upon this base. Yep.
Sen, your turn.
So I guess for futures as well is just building better relationships with our Toronto ecosystem. So essentially the corridor. I think we have a lot of great companies in Toronto and a lot of great companies in Waterloo, and all the hubs are doing something different and they're really good at certain things. And now how do we not duplicate duplicate what they're doing and try to work with them. And so that's probably what the future looks like. And today we are working with Mars, DMZ, 111 in Toronto, and we continue to do that. I'm trying to find ways, like our leadership team works with them in different projects and we work with their teams. Like, so my counterpart in Mars, for example, I'll work with them closely and say, they'll connect me with the company and vice versa when we think it's beneficial.
So keep working out that muscle and strengthen the corridor muscle.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Yeah. Any other future looking things, Angela?
Kind of over and above that too, I mean, you alluded to it earlier, but the CDMN, the Canadian Digital Media Network, is an overarching strategy to connect these hubs across Canada. And again, it's about learning from each other, best practices. And I would say what's really interesting is when we have discussions, how much we do have in common, how many pain points are kind of consistent, and how we can use the network to learn from each other, really.
And it's mainly a Canadian network that you're talking about, or are you getting into the Valley at all?
It is a Canadian network,
okay.
Yeah.
And do you see any similarities? I'm sure there are many, but between the U.S. and the Canadian entrepreneur?
Do you want to take that one?
I guess
No Donald Trump jokes allowed.
in terms of like, so we have organizations we work with in the Valley, like C100. We have organizations in Boston that we work with, which is the Scene Group. So
I know 43 North from Buffalo was just out visiting.
Exactly, yeah, exactly.
Yep.
So
Peter,
one of our goals within Communitech is like when our companies are going there out to either to raise money or get access to customers, we try to connect them with our groups there. We do a lot of programming. So next week we're going to Google Demo Day. One of our companies is pitching from Rev. And so not only are they going, but some of us from our team are going, because there's going to be a room full of investors. How can we help support them? How do we build relationships with those investors for future companies that are going to be going down? So that's one of the things that we do. And we have, even locally, within our organization, we have people like, how do we now attract Canadian talent back to Waterloo region? That's one of our big initiatives here.
Yeah, that's a really good point. So that's a huge focus for us, is attracting them back.
and how do you do it? Maple syrup and hockey?
Bacon. I don't know what the special sauce is.
Yeah, there's no solution to that yet, eh?
We'll bring Heather Galt on the next podcast.
We're working on it. We're working on it.
Have some secrets for
Yeah,
us.
exactly.
So let's talk about some startups here locally. You guys have been exposed to many, helped many, mentored many. Who's your hashtag startup crush this week? Who you guys think is doing a really cool job or has done something that caught your eye?
So top of mind right now is, because we're all traveling to California next week, is Knowledge Hook.
I'm sorry?
Knowledge Hook.
Knowledge Hook, yeah.
So they're a tech company. They help teachers improve math outcomes for students. They're in 25% of the boards in Ontario. They have 5,200 teachers on their platform, and it's an exciting time for them. They're actually currently fundraising, and so Google Demo Day is perfect in line with where they're at today.
We have them lined up. We're going to be talking to them in a couple of weeks, I believe.
Nice. Travis and James?
Yes. Yeah.
Awesome.
So,
and then I guess in a few more weeks, we'll have our Rev Demo Day, which we're for the first time hosting in Toronto with the Canadian Venture Capital Association. So there'll be a group of investors across Canada and some from the States that'll be attending this demo day, and 5 of our companies are pitching for $100,000 in cash prizes.
Oh, wow.
But more importantly, they're pitching to an audience full of investors to help hopefully get that next meeting for their fundraising goals.
oh, cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. How about yourself, Angela? Any startup crushes?
Oh, Olive Sun's companies.
Very nicely done.
He's stellar. He does a great job. So
Good.
Yeah.
Yeah, really cool. Let me just check my notes here. If we want to follow your progress, I know Communitech has a website. Do you guys have Twitter accounts at all, or how can people reach out to you?
I do have Twitter, but my last name is really hard to spell.
Are you looking at where I wrote it down?
I know, but I'm not sure everybody else.
Yeah, I think I did it right.
But you can always email me, just angela@communitech.ca, or you can find me on Twitter.
On the tweets?
On the tweets.
What about you, Sen?
Likewise, sen@communitech.ca. Perfect.
Awesome.
Best way to reach me. Yeah.
Cool. Well, that's it for this week of the Tech Startup Podcast, guys, TSP Weekly. Thanks for joining us. Next week, we're talking to ride.co, so really looking forward to that. So for myself, Stephen Campbell, and my guests, Angela and Sen from Communitech, thanks so much for joining us. We'll see you next week.